Did I press the right thing this time? Okay. I can see myself and everything is perfect. Okay, except not focus. Okay. My hot chocolate and my glasses and my book. Just kidding. Hey guys, I'm back finally after several months. I'm sorry about that. This time we will be reading Illuminae. This bad boy right here. It's super thick, and it's going to take a while, I think, to actually get through this book because it's not a hard read at all, really. But I can only do so. Oh, bye. I can only do so many pages at a time without it getting too confusing to relay back to you guys. And I have to show you guys the diagrams and everything because of how the book's written, which is really neat. Like, I 30 pages in, I think, and I really like it. Just like the dynamic and how it's written and how they went about putting it all together. And it's really neat. We'll be doing that, but since it's going to take so long, I would really like to do another book as well. And I kind of want to do a Wattpad book. I think that'd be really fun, and that's what I was talking about last time, but I could never decide on one. So if you guys have any recommendations, I would really like to do one of those as well. Or a Reddit book, like story possibly. I know there's Hell Radio. I really want to eventually do a series on that. But that would just be like here and there because it's still being added to every few months, and I haven't decided anything. But if you have any suggestions, comment down below and we will get started. So I've been using the cover as a place marker, so I put a little receipt in there. That way I can finally tell you guys what's going on. So let's take this off because it gets super annoying. So the entire book is set up as like case files pretty much. That's like documentation of what's happening, and it's still kind of up, like there's a basic gist of you know what's going on, but you don't know why it's all happening. So I'm not completely 100% sure all the background information yet because I'm only 30 pages in. But what seems to be happening right now is so there's two main characters, so let's see if I can remember their names. Ezra is the guy, and then the girl is Caddy, I think it's Caddy. If I'm wrong, let me know. So Caddy and Ezra live on this little community camp thing that's on this planet that's being mined for a certain mineral that's used during the time period. And the time period is actually like 500 years in the future. It's like 2,575, I think. Pretty sure, or 76 actually. Pretty positive. I'll figure it out in a second as I'm going through it. But, so you know, they're on this little thing, and they're there illegally. Like, corporations run everything now, and there's these two major corporations, and one corporation owns this little planet and is supposed to be mining here, but they never did anything with it. They just kind of forgot about it. So this other corporation, like, snuck in and has been doing the mining, and that's all the people that are there, like the parents or someone at some point worked for that corporation, and now the people are there. And so, what happened is there's one day, Caddy and Ezra break up that morning. And they go to school, and she drives her truck to school because she doesn't want to ride the bus with him. And so they're at school, and everything starts exploding. There's like, psh, psh, everyone's dying, and there are people being ran over and stepped on, and all kinds of crazy stuff. Ezra goes into detail about it, and I really kind of didn't want to know because, like, I can handle certain types of gore, but then other things, like, I just can't. And like people being trampled to death is one of those things, and he talks about it, and it's not for me. But there's like explosions, and then Caddy and Ezra end up back together in her truck because since she took her truck, she can finally get away. And since she's getting away, she sees him, and she's like, I really don't even want to be near you, but I guess this is how it's gonna go. And so they're trying to get out of all of it, and they end up making it out. And I'll go into more detail about it in a second. And all of these records, it's all like interviews, graphs, like videos that have been written down, things like that have taken place after the fact of this one event happening. And this one event ends up creating a, why can't I think of the word? Pretty much because this event happened, another event happened, another event happened. And it ends up becoming, it's named the Battle of Corenza, I think. It ends up causing like mass chaos for like a few months, and this book is like all the documentation of it from these rebel people that are trying to fix it all, is what I've got from it so far. Summary of the first 30 pages. Alright, now let's go into more detail, things I tagged, things like that. So, all of this was grouped together by the rebel group or whatever, that's what we'll call them until I give you the name just now. They're called the Illuminae group, and that's what it's like, Illuminae Files 1. And there's now a second book, and I plan on doing the second book too because I already really like this book, and it's for sale at Target, and I love going to Target, so yep. Moving on. So the Illuminae group is the people that put all this together, and it's like all neato, burrito, and everything. Moving on. So my first tag is the first page. And it's an interview between Caddy and the interviewer about what happened, and the interviewer is on Alexander 78V, and this is the ship that they are now on trying to get away. And the ship was connected to the, we'll call it a colony, it was like the campground thing, the colony, but it is now moving away. So Caddy goes through and she talks about her day and how they broke up and how she never wants to speak to him again, but then she ends up speaking to him and everything. And it keeps going back and forth, and then on the next page it goes to Ezra. And you have to be really careful because if you don't pay attention you might get confused, because the interviewer is also talking to Ezra, but they're in two different rooms, and the interviewer is just bouncing back and forth to get all the information he needs, but it's all collected in like this one little thing, and it goes on. But this little divider is the thing that separates the two, and if you're not paying attention, there's certain pages where it'll start, like, which one is it? Because I messed up, and then I was really confused for like a page and a half, and I had to go back and reread it all, because it ended up being, it was Ezra, and I thought it was still Ezra, and it wasn't. Where it's like at the very top, and if you're not paying attention, you just get lost. But anyways, so it's the interview. Oh yeah, this is where he was talking about stomping on people, because Ezra is like a big guy. They don't play football, they play this other game, but he's pretty much like a football player type guy. He's like 6'7", he's like all built and everything, and so he's just stomping around on people. Yeah, it was kind of messed up. Yeah, the Corenza, the Battle of Corenza, that's what it's called. That's what all of this is about. So they're going through and talking about what happened, and then I already explained that. Also, it's really important to note that Caddy is like super smart, and she's like super good with computers. Like that's part of the reason why they're interviewing her, is because the only reason she knew how to get out and she knew what was going on was because instead of running away in mass panic like everyone else did, she went to the computer and like hacked into the mainframe and figured out everything that was going on so she could get away. And so that's important because I think it's going to come up a lot. Sorry, my light went off again. It's going to come up a lot, and it's a big part of her character, and so, yes, that should be stated. Now, also, she's, like, really good at all kinds of things, but, when she gets angry, she just, like, throws a bunch of stuff around, and at one point, they're trying to get away, and Ezra and her start fighting, and their car ends up flipping and all kinds of stuff, and Ezra pulls Caddy out of the car because they're also underneath, like, the road splits and they're, like, underneath it, and he pulls her out and he's trying to, like, give her mouth to save her, and she wakes up in the middle of it and just punches him straight in the face and, like, breaks his nose. And I thought that was funny. And then they start yelling at each other again, and everything. Pretty much half of the book so far in the interviews is like them trying to escape and then getting mad at each other and fighting, and Ezra being like, but I loved you, and then them almost dying and then them running away again, and then it just vicious cycle. So that's the breakup is important. And I looked at I guess you don't really read it. I looked at the last page of the book, and I think I know what happens, but I'm not going to spoil it for you guys. But, yeah, it's pretty obvious to see that there is chemistry between the two of them that is just going to play an important role throughout everything. So then there's just the interviews for a while, and then, oh, yeah, something that was, like, super messed up and I was mad about, and it's on page 18, and, like, only 30 pages into the book, and I'm already mad and crying. Not really, I didn't cry, just internally. So Ezra at one point is talking to the interviewer, and he's like, hey, can I see my dad? And the interviewer's like, well, you have to go through all of this stuff before you can see him because, you know, you're just a normal person and he's not, and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, but he's my dad. And they're like, just wait until the interview's over. And he's like, okay, fine. And then at the end of the interview, he's like, can I see my dad now? And then the interviewer was like, we've had another update to the casualty list, and I'm afraid I have some news about your father. He knew good and well his dad had died, and he was like, yeah, you can see him after this, and lied to him so he could get some dumb information about him and how, like, him and Caddy were fighting, pretty much. Like, it just made me mad. Point is, it was super dumb, and their interviewer's a butt-faced, and it was fun. So, moving on. Other things that I thought were important. Okay, I'm almost done. But, then the next thing it moves over is, like, this officer memorandum, and it's just important things about who's fighting who and the ship's condition and everything. So I'm going to read just a little bit of that. Colony. Yes, see, they call it a colony too. Bam. Right there. But, so the jump gate generator is heavily damaged. Wormholes can still be created, but will then more than likely collapse before a jump can be executed, resulting in the Alexander's destruction. So, you know, they're in the future. To get places, they jump through wormholes. The Alexander was set up to do that, to move the stuff that they got from mining to the places it needed to go, and it also carried all the people if the people needed to go somewhere else away from the colony or whatever. They're all on it now because, you know, the colony exploded, but the Alexander can't actually travel the way it was originally made to anymore, so now it's just kind of floating in space to their destination. But not well, it's like a cruise ship, pretty much at this point, except also a battleship, unintentionally. Yeah. So there's that. And then they're fighting. I'm trying to find the company that attacked them, and I can't remember what it's called, and I can't find it anymore. Bitech is the company that owned the planet and tried to kill everyone because they had been mining there. That's the plan. That's the bad company. I mean, they weren't doing 100% good because they were there illegally, but for the sake of this, they're the antagonist. Bitech's bad guys, Krenza, and whatever the actual company name is, good guys right now. I'm sure it's going to get way more complicated than that because there's like the Illuminae group, and Caddy is somewhere in here, and Ezra is following Caddy around, and so, but for now, good guys, Krenza, that's just what we'll call it, and Bitech, bad guys. So, moving on, their stuff's destroyed. Okay, here is a little thing on what the Alexander looks like. I'm trying to get it to, like, focus. Anyways, that's the Alexander, that's the big ship that Caddy is on. And then, I didn't realize this until I was reading these. This is the Hyptia? That's what we'll call it. I think this is the one that Ezra's on. They're on two different ships. There's 3 of them, but they're all connected, and the Alexander is the main ship. And that's what's mostly spoken about. The other 2, they just like walk through to get places. There's the Hyptia. It's like the medical center or whatever too, I'm pretty sure. And then there is the Copernicus. Yeah, and it also does stuff. But these are the 3 main ships that are being talked about right now, and Corenzia is working through and taking care of, or whatever. These are the ships that saved the colony because they were theirs, and they are now trying to get to somewhere where they can be completely rescued, but that's only 6 or 7 months away. I am bad at this. Moving on. So then there's this thing called Unipedia, and it's like Wikipedia, and it's like the Battle of Corenza, and it's like all of the stuff that happened, and that is, and it was just like the initial assault and the times and the day, and like how Bitech was just poopy, and yeah. And so there was that, and then Ezra at one point emails Caddy once they're back on the ships and everything's okay. This is like 2 weeks after they get on the ship and the interviews are over and everything. And also Ezra almost dies. At the very end of the interviews, you find out that right before they get on the ships, he gets shot like right here and almost bleeds to death, but Caddy like picks him up because she's bad and carries him to safety, and it's awesome. And so yeah, but he's telling her that he's okay now because he's been in the medical ward like since then, except for the interviews, like getting better and being okay and all kinds of stuff. And he's like, love E, and she doesn't respond. And then there's like a psyche profile on Caddy and how she refuses to work with anyone, and she tries to act like she isn't smart and all kinds of stuff. And then it talks about how she keeps breaking her and like some hacker friends she made that are like just kind of hiding around in the shadows. They're not really sure who these people are or if they're like actually part of the colony or if they just like snuck on. She keeps breaking into the computer systems and figuring things out and just being dangerous. And then that's it. I'm glad I figured that out because my receipt that I am using as a placeholder as of now had fallen out. Alright, but that's the first 30 pages. I should be back soon with like the next 30 or 50 or however many I can get through without worrying it will be too much. I hope you guys like it. If you have any questions, comment down below. If you have any requests, anything, let me know. Any ideas for the other book I could do while we're reading this one. All of it there or on our Tumblr or just wherever you find me because my social media is everywhere. Get back to reading.